and welcome to Cabernet Chronicles with me, Aimee, Lynn, and my guest today is Miss Jett Breedlove.
Hi.
And today is going to be a little different because, the last couple episodes we have talked a lot about, personal things, like murder roommates, neighbor who saved my life and gave good advice. Now today, I'm going to do a little thing where I'm going to teach you some stuff.
Oh, okay.
You're going to
All
learn
right.
some things. And part of it is you can burn the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't burn the passion for teaching out of the heart of a teacher.
That's written somewhere. That's definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Well, now it's a thing.
Now
I
it
just
is.
made it a thing. Yeah.
It's been written
It's been
in subtitles.
written in subtitles.
There we
Yes. Exactly. So today I am going to tell you the very crazy story of the Seattle fire
Okay.
and the madam whom saved Seattle.
All right. I don't know this, so this is going to be great.
Okay, so the sources for this story are, of course, Wikipedia. Wikipedia. If, back in the day, I had so many, high school teachers, college teachers say Wikipedia is not a good source, a reliable source. It is fucking wrong. They are a reliable source. They actually, if you go down to the bottom, boom, there's all their sources. So if you ever are doing a research project and you need some sources, go to the bottom of Wikipedia and there's a bunch of sources for you.
You can also go to googlescholar.com.
Yes, you can.
It's the same thing, but yeah.
Yes, exactly. And another is a Geographics video about the Seattle Underground, because that's also something we're going to be talking about, as well as the Seattle Underground tour itself.
Nice. I've done it. I've done the red light tour and the regular one. Yeah.
I really wanted to do the red light tour, but apparently they don't do it anymore.
What?
Yeah, they don't have enough staff to do the drinking one now.
Oh, it was really
I
fun.
know.
You got to go into some opium dens and stuff like that. It was pretty good.
So now you don't.
I'm sorry.
Now you don't get to go to the opium dens, which is a bummer. A bummer.
I did.
I didn't.
Sorry.
I
I got photos. I'll show them to you.
Yes.
Sorry you didn't get to go into the
I
drug
know.
dens, Aimee. I know.
I know. I've always wanted to. It's cool. I went to the ones in Edinburgh, and
Oh, nice.
that was a haunted one too. It was all scary and shit.
Yeah. I went to the Portland Underground stuff. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. The Shanghai tunnels.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Basically, if a city that you're going to visit has an underground tour, go on it.
Yeah.
It is fun. And
it's fun
very
with a dark
interesting.
history. Yeah.
And very interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting. So, to tell you the story about the Seattle fire, I'm going to tell just a little bit about Seattle and how it was kind of formed and stuff like that. On November 13th, 1851, the Denny Party, which consisted of Terry, Denny, Lowe, all came to Alki Point. And now these guys were like, we're going to make a city here. This is a great place for a city. It's right on the water. We're going to have lots of trees. It's great. One of the things that they didn't really account for, because they didn't really know very much about it, is tides. Literally, their first day on the shore, they left all their shit on the shore, went up to go explore things, and then found that all their shit was in the water now.
Oh, my God.
Washed away. Because they didn't know about tides, which to me is so crazy because I've always lived next to the Puget Sound. So I've always known about tides. But then I have to remember that most people do not live by the ocean.
Yeah.
And they don't know what the fuck tides are because lakes don't get tides on them. So that was just a little tidbit that blew my little mind balls a little bit. They were like, this is a great place to build. Had they actually asked the indigenous people whom, lived here first, why haven't they built anything in this area? They would have found out that it is a tidal flat and it floods literally every time it rains and literally every time there's a high tide. They're like, whatever, we're building our city here. So they build the city. And what do they have abundance of here in Washington? Trees.
Yeah.
So they made
I thought this was a trick question.
literally
I was like, is it trees?
no.
Or is it something crazy?
Nope, it's trees.
Yeah.
Now, they made every single thing out of wood, including the water pipes, which will come up later. The water pipes made of wood. Now, they build their city. It wasn't on rock and roll, though. Instead, it was on a tidal flat that literally flooded every time it rained. Now, what happens in Washington and Seattle all the fucking time between October and June?
Rain.
Rain.
It's rain season.
So it's constantly flooding.
Mm-hmm.
But also the tides are coming in and out. And here in the Pacific Northwest, we are north enough to where we have some of the highest tides and lowest tides. So our tides can literally change from 30 feet.
Yep.
It can come up 30 feet, go down out 30 feet. There have been times where it's been as large as 50 feet that it has gone out. This happened that every time it was high tide and someone flushed the toilet would explode. So if you tried to flush your poo-poo down when it was high tide, it would just come back up and go.
She talks with her hands, guys.
I do.
She's a hand talker.
I'm a hand talker. I should put this in this hand and oh my God, I just did it again.
We're going to just mic you up next time.
Fuck. That can be a fun little blooper.
Anyways, here, I'll take it over. The toilets exploded.
The toilets exploded. Literally whoosh, out every time it was high tide. Now, what's this whole city made of?
Wood.
Okay.
Is that part of my quiz?
Yes, that's one of your quizzes. So, about more than 30 years later, on June 6th, 1889, something happened. Something bad happened. Now, what did we say happened in Seattle all the fucking time?
Rain.
But this year, that spring, it didn't really rain. We have a saying here called where April showers bring May showers and also probably June showers. And that summer doesn't start here until July 5th.
It's true.
Because it rains so much. This was not the case. In June of 1889, we had one of the driest, hottest springs ever on record. Well, at least we think ever on record. And we're going to come to that. Pretty sure ever on record. So, what's this whole city made of? Wood.
Mm-hmm.
Including the water pipes. It has now been a very dry, very hot spring. Seems like a perfect way to have a wonderful fire that destroys the whole damn city. And we called it the Great Seattle Fire. It wasn't that great. It wasn't a good thing. But it happened. And this is how it happened. It started at Victor Claremont woodworking shop by an apprentice named John Black. Now, he was making homemade glue. And then he dropped it. And he started a grease fire. What is the worst thing you could ever do to a grease fire?
Water.
Put water on it. Guess what John Beck didn't know?
Killing this quiz. Don't put water on it.
Don't put water on a grease fire.
Killing it.
If you learn anything from this podcast, well, number one, lock your doors. Second,
That is true. Don't get in a car with strangers.
don't get in a car with strangers either. But second is you never, ever, ever, ever put water on a grease fire. Ever. You have to
Never.
smother it completely. That's how you get rid of grease
It's
fires.
baking soda, isn't it?
You can do baking soda. You can, you should have a fire extinguisher in your kitchen.
That should have been number one for me to say.
Fire
And
extinguisher.
then baking soda. Yeah.
Baking soda.
My bad.
If it's in a pot, you can just put the lid on the pot.
Yep.
You have to smother it, though.
Yeah.
And that's how you get rid of grease fires. Well, poor little John Beck did not know any of this, and he threw some water on that grease fire. Now, it starts going out of control. Spreads to the 3 nearest businesses. You want to guess what kind of business they were?
Did they have explosives? Gun.
Close. It's close. No. One was the Dietzenmeyer liquor store.
Oh, no,
The second was the Crystal Palace Saloon. The third was the Opera House Saloon. So
all of it has alcohol.
What does alcohol like to do when you put flames by it?
Flammable.
So it quickly became even more out of control because now everything around them is made of wood, number one, and is all flammable shit that is going to blow up. So that's what it does. Now, Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong will go wrong. This is what happened on that day. Literally everything could go wrong, did go wrong. Number one, the fire chief was out of town on vacation. All of the firefighters were volunteer firefighters who actually did not know what they were doing. It was low tide, so they couldn't just flush a toilet and make it explode, you know. It was low tide, but a very, very large low tide. And none of the hoses could reach the shoreline to get water up to the fire. And again, the pipes were made of wood. So guess how it started going around to all the other buildings?
Through the pipes.
Through the fucking pipes. Through the pipes. Yeah. So, at the end of this horrible, terrible fire, 33 blocks of Seattle were completely destroyed. 33 blocks. That's, if you've ever been to Seattle, that's all of downtown Seattle. Just gone.
Yep.
And here's the thing about the Seattle fire. We have absolutely no idea how many people died in it because the census burned down. The census burned down in the Seattle fire. So we have no idea how many people lost their lives. We do, however, know exactly where, when, how, and by whom this fire was started. If I started a fire that then burned down an entire city, I would not be there at the end like, whoopsies, my bad. Grease fires, am I right? What? Don't put water on grease fires. My bad. No. You would never hear from me ever again.
Nah, I'd disappear.
Yeah.
Be like a phantom.
Do you know how easy it was to disappear in the 1800s?
So easy.
Let alone after you burn the fucking census down? Nobody even knows that you're supposed to be there, except for your loved ones and family. But they would just be like, well, she must have died in the fire.
Yeah. Start a new life.
I would never, ever not only be there at the end like, oopsies, my bad, I did that. I would never let my name be put to that. So some bitches on a podcast 130 years later can talk shit about me, you know?
Talking mad shit. I would disappear.
I would disappear. I'd be gone. I'd be in the next town and someone would be like, oh, did you hear about what happened in Seattle? And I'd be like, what's a Seattle? I've never even heard of Seattle before. What is that? No, like, I'd be like,
New
all right,
name?
bye.
His name was already John.
Bye.
He could have just different name. Easy peasy.
Just literally
Disappointed.
change your name to John Smith.
Yeah.
John Smith.
John Doe.
John Doe. John
alone.
John Johnson.
Yeah.
Anything. You could have done anything, John. But instead, you stayed. And you're like, yeah, that was me.
And this isn't being like noble and just living up to like, I did this. No, that was just dumb.
Nope.
Burned down a whole city.
Whoopsies. My bad. Whoopsies. My bad.
Won't do that again.
I'll promise never to put water on a grease fire ever again.
He was an apprentice, too.
He was an apprentice. So it's also like, oh, you also have to remember that back then, they didn't really have, like, public education and stuff like that. And so he didn't really know any better. However, I feel like if you are his not master. That's a weird way to say that.
Well, I guess
An
not really.
apprentice.
Master and apprentice.
Yeah,
I guess.
that's usually what. But it feels
Yeah.
weird to say that.
His
if
daddy. See, that's way more weird.
That is way more weird.
Not so bad now, is it?
If you are the person with the apprentice, I feel like the first day is, what do you do with a gas fire?
Yeah.
Smother it. Never put water on a grease fire.
Well, where was his master at? Like, shouldn't he have been like nearby?
Right? You think he should have
He's an
been
apprentice,
nearby.
Like you would.
But apparently, the apprentice was the only one in the shop that day.
he's at the saloon.
He was at the saloon probably next
Probably.
door. Honestly, that's probably what I would do.
Yeah.
Make the glue so I can then make stuff later. But I'm going to go get drunk at the saloon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, after all said and done,
Mhm.
more than $28 million was damaged. So, $8 million to the city, $20 million to businesses. Now, that's in 1889 money. Do you want to guess how much $28 million is worth now today?
Billion.
So close.
Really?
You're so close.
Oh.
Yes. It's 956 million. So almost a billion.
Holy crap.
956.
And this was 1889?
Yes.
18
So 956
million.
like yeah.
So close to a bill.
So close to a billion.
Oh,
So close.
my
So $1 billion worth of damages.
Well, money's made up, so
Yeah.
I said what I said.
Yes. Technically, yeah. But we have no idea how many people lost their lives because the census burned down.
Yeah.
We now have a city that has absolutely no infrastructure for City Hall got burnt down.
Well, how
Everything
long
got
did it take?
burnt
How
down.
did it say like how long it took to burn?
It was by the morning. It was all gone.
Because it with as dry as it went and everything's made of
Mhm.
wood, that had to go up
It
so
went
quick
fast.
you don't even
it was
have time.
very fast, very
Yeah.
fast.
No time to
Yes.
even get out.
Yeah.
So
There could have been a
probably
lot
most of the city
people.
died. Yeah. Dang. John
Yes.
Black.
Yes. Well,
Wow.
600 building owners as well as the city council. So we know that 600 building owners and the city council survived at least.
Okay. Yeah.
On literally the next day, on June 7th, they all got together and they decided how to rebuild. Now, the number one thing they all decided on was that all buildings will be made of stone or brick.
I thought they would have outcasted John Black first, but yeah. I
John
guess-
Beck. I mean,
John
they
Beck?
might have.
My bad.
They didn't.
John
they
Beck.
didn't put those in the minutes. Maybe they did, or maybe they were like, "Oh, good. Oh,
Poor boy.
poor boy. He just didn't know."
So everything's made of brick and stone now.
So everything's gonna be made of brick and stone. But then they were like, "Wait, we have an opportunity. Remember how this shit floods every time it rains?" And you know how it toilets go boom when it's all high tide? Well, let's fix that. So they decide to move dirt and make it so that area of Seattle goes from 10 feet at the shore up to 30 feet. So this is a big undertaking. They're planning on rising all of Seattle 10 to 30 feet above sea level. And then make it so it's a gradient. So then it's easily drainage goes down. Gravity.
Yeah.
Now we don't have to worry about flooding. We don't have to worry about high tides. We can live in this city without worrying about that.
Yeah.
Now it's 1889. So they don't have bulldozers. They don't have machinery. They have to get men and manpower to make this happen.
Mhm.
And it's a project that's going to take about 7 to 10 years. So what the businesses decide is, well, we'll just make our business and then make money because, you got to still eat. But as the city builds the place up, then we'll try to move up onto the city. So what then ends up happening is people are walking up on top of the road, and they have to go down ladders in order to get to the shops. And if they want to cross the road, they had to go across ladders in order to cross it. So imagine you're walking and you're ready to go shopping, because the shop is technically privately owned. So the city's not like, oh, we're going to pay for you to be up top. No, they're like, here's all the dirt, bitch. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Basically, everything was planned on that becoming the basements of the upper floors.
Okay.
But when it's still being built, you can't put the building up yet.
Yeah.
So people had to go down the ladders and across the ladders in order to go shopping. Now, this is kind of the fucked up part, in my opinion.
This is okay.
Well, one of the fucked up parts. So that doesn't seem very safe,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't, and 17 people died.
Well, yeah.
And do you know how they listed their deaths?
No. Accident?
Not by accident. No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, there was my guess.
Nope. They said their cause of death was involuntary suicide. And do you know why they did it that way? Because if they made it an accident, then their friends and family could possibly sue the city and make money that way. So they made up a whole way someone else could die by involuntary suicide as a way to not have to pay for the people that died falling into the underground.
God, we're so broken. Even back then. Wow. Things don't change.
Nope.
Okay. Well, involuntary suicide I've never heard of before.
Yeah,
That's
it's
insane.
not
Like,
it's not a real cause of death because you can't do that. But they did it then because they wouldn't have to then owe any families money or be sued as negligent or anything like that. Yeah. Hell yeah. So crazy.
I don't like that.
Crazy. Yeah. So awful and terrible. Now, as the years went by and the more dirt is placed, and some business owners were able to move right up on top and build their new shops. Many, however, could not afford it. So they stayed down in the underground, and the city commissioned glass in the pavement. So then there would be light for the down underground. Yeah. So if you walk in Pioneer Square now, you will see, and they're like more purple now, but they used to be clear.
Oh.
And so a lot more light got down there. And so that's what the city did. They just literally just closed off the top. So now people aren't falling in, which is great. However, business owners couldn't completely afford to go up top, or they're waiting for their building to be built or whatever you have. So that's how the Seattle Underground became the Seattle Underground. Now, I did promise you to talk about a madam.
Yeah.
Well, we're on that part of that story now.
Okay.
So, Lou Graham and her seamstresses.
So Madame Lou's is named after her.
Yes, Madame Lou's is named after Lou Graham.
Pieced it together.
It's
a place you can go to watch concerts and stuff. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah. Very intimate. Yeah.
Named after her. And here is why. So, in order to build a new city, they're going to need a lot of men. Now, that means that at one point, there was 10 men for every one woman here in Seattle. And you don't want that as a society. But also...
I don't want that at all. No, I don't.
Yeah, you don't want it to just be full of dudes. Just
Sausage
dudes
party.
everywhere. No. Well, Lou Graham was like, ooh, I see some money. Now, she saw an opportunity, and she was actually a madam before the Seattle fire, and she was one of the only business owners that was able to make not only rebuild her hotel, but make it bigger.
Nice.
She was like, I'm about to make a bigger, better brothel. And it's going to be awesome.
Nice.
Because now there's 10 men for every one woman. Money, money, money. So she built her new brothel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually on 3rd and Washington. It's the Seattle Mission Building.
Are you serious?
Yes. So that was her hotel. And now let's go back. Who is Lou Graham? That's her name, Lou Graham. Well, her name's not actually Lou Graham. She was born Dorothea Georgine Emile Abin on February 9th, 1857 in Germany. And she made her way to Seattle in just 1887. So she was able to make enough money in Seattle in 2 years to then build a bigger, better hotel / brothel than she had before. So she wanted to make the hotels that would rival the European brothels, like the class, the everything. And she was actually known as the Queen of the Lava Beds.
Okay.
Yeah. So she did not accept anyone. What she expected her ladies to be very well educated, be able to read books, keep up on politics, speak different languages, play different instruments and sing, and basically be like the courtesans from high-class French and Italian brothels.
I could have killed it.
Yeah, I probably would have been. But here's the deal. If a woman showed up and didn't have those skills, she educated them.
Oh, nice.
So she took in as many women that showed up and she educated them into be this, which is crazy because at the time in Seattle, most people, like 90% of people, were illiterate. So to have a woman be highly educated, be able to read books, talk about politics was crazy. So which means she made even more money.
Okay.
Because these were
Nice.
high class ladies. She quickly became the wealthiest person in Seattle. She was also super generous, though. So she was the highest contributor to Seattle, to public schools in all of Washington, and she kept that title for 100 years until she was surpassed by Bill Gates in the 1990s.
I think it was Bill Gates, yeah.
So she literally gave so much money to education that for 100 years, she was the highest contributor to public schools. Like, that's how much money she was making.
Nice.
Number one. But also, that's also just shows how generous she was. But also, she taught her ladies to read, to be educated. And that was really important to her. Mm-hmm. And remember that little apprentice who started a fire because he didn't know about grease fires? Well, Madame Lou made sure that future generations were educated as children, so then things like that wouldn't happen again. So technically, though, at the time, sex work was illegal. However, these ladies of the night, they were down as seamstresses.
Yeah,
quote unquote.
I get it.
And they were taxed at $10 per month, which is $3,400 in today's money. So there were more than 2,500 seamstresses on the books, which is more than $8.5 million a month in today's money that they contributed. 87% of the city's operating budget were seamstresses. So even though it was illegal, no one cared. They just did a blind eye and they absolutely did not care. It also probably helped that they got a lot of free drinks at the hotel and probably some other free things at the hotel. Lou became so wealthy that she actually started to loan business owners money to move out of the underground. So people would try to go to banks and the banks would say, nope, we're not loaning you anything. They would go to Lou Graham and she'd be like, all right, I'll loan you that. And she actually would loan them money for less interest than the banks were going to try to loan them if the bank were going to even try to loan them. So again, she had so much money from her seamstresses and her seamstress career herself that she was able to loan business owners money more than the banks did. In fact, she saved the Pacific Sound National Bank in 1893 from the 1893 panic. So back then, banks were not insured. If everyone took their money out of a bank, then the bank went goodbye. But a lot of banks didn't have the money on hand because a lot of them, like today, they would invest it in other things and stuff like that to make money off of it. So if there was a panic, people would go and take all their money, and then boom, now there's no money in the bank at all, and now everyone doesn't have money. So she went and she deposited a very large sum of money into the bank and kept it from closing. Like, that's crazy to be able to have that kind of money to save a bank.
Yeah. This lady's awesome.
Yeah. So her generosity is credited with not just the growth of the economy, but saving Seattle from financial ruin. Her establishment was so prominent that it's a saying, and I quote, "No young businessman was considered a man about town until he could discuss with ease the interior decorating of Lou's establishment and some of the finer points of the distinguished ladies." End quote.
Yeah.
Many of the Seattle, like predominant Seattle families, owe their fortunes to her because they went to her for the business loans to get out of the Seattle underground, to move their establishments, but also she saved them from ruin when the bank was going to close. So many families here should be thanking Madame Lou for their wealth that they have from their generations of wealth. Now, she continued to be very generous with her money until she unfortunately passed away from syphilis in 1903.
Oh, the syph will get you.
It will definitely get you.
Wait, what year was it?
1903.
Oh, so she made it a few years.
Yeah, she made a couple more years. She died in her 40s. But at the time of her death, she was actually the wealthiest Pacific Northwest landowner, and her estate actually went to the public schools in King County.
Nice.
So many of us now who have gone through the schools in King County, or it also trickled into Pierce County and stuff like that too, owe their school, their education to her. And again, she was the largest donor to public schools until Bill Gates. Like, that's crazy.
She died in her 40s.
She died in her 40s. Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay.
Which is sad. However, she lived a very generous life. She was like a Dolly Parton of her time. If Dolly Parton was a madam. But Dolly Parton helps kids read too. Yeah. She's been paying to help kids read and sending them books and stuff too.
Yeah.
So yeah, always be kind to your seamstresses,
Didn't she play a madam in a movie?
Yes. Best little whorehouse in Texas.
Yes. I was going to say, I've
has
seen
a
it.
whorehouse in it.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. Oh my God.
Check it out. It's really good.
So good. And that's actually where the I Will Always Love You was actually first done, was that movie.
Oh my God, Willie Nelson wrote that.
She wrote it.
I thought Willie Nelson wrote it.
No.
And gave it to her.
No.
She wrote it?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't know that. I could have swore Willie Nelson wrote it.
No.
And gave it to her.
No.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love her version so much.
Yeah.
I like her little. I'm getting off topic.
Well, it's because spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, she's trying to say goodbye to the guy that she loves because he's a cop and she's a madam, and so that doesn't work, and so she's like singing to him, like, and it's really sad because it's her being like, I'm gonna let you go, but I love you, and so that's a different feel, whereas the Whitney Houston version is like a powerful, I will love you, and it's so good though too. Both of them are so good.
They're both good.
They just have different vibes.
And she was singing it to Kevin Costner too.
I know.
Bodyguard is such a good movie. He was in love with her.
Yeah, I mean,
like how could you not? Yeah,
God,
but
so good. Yeah, but anyways, you know, I would not be mad if Dolly Parton played Madame Lou in a movie. I'll be honest.
That'd be amazing.
I'd be like, yes, Dolly Parton.
She would
do
kill
it.
that.
She would kill it. Kill it. Yes, so she saved Seattle after the Seattle fire, and she helped so many business owners and so many businesses move above the underground. So, what happened to the underground, I'm sure you're asking? What happened? Well, unfortunately, in 1907, the city closed it down because they were afraid of the bubonic plague. It also was 2 years before the World's Fair happened in 1909 here. So, conspiracy theory maybe that they closed it as a way to get some of the drugs and stuff like that out of there so they don't look bad.
Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised about that one.
Yes. Now, the Seattle Underground was mostly forgotten for a while, and it was used by criminals, but as drug dens and everything like that, until local historian Bill Spile came along. And he came along, and not only did he save Pioneer Square from being demolished, because it was going to be demolished by 1960s developers. He not only did that, but he was able to get it on the registry for historical sites. And in 1965, he gave the very first underground tour.
Nice.
And the underground tour that you go on now is literally his script. It's his stuff. And it is so funny. They're sarcastic. They're funny. They're hilarious. It is all from his research, all from him. He wrote a couple books about it, but also he personally did the Seattle Underground tour. And the very first tour, he had sent it in the paper, and he was expecting maybe 1 or 2, maybe 10 people. Do you want to know how many people showed up for the very first tour?
How many?
500 people showed up for the very first underground tour.
Okay, that makes me really happy for him. Yeah.
And this underground tour has ran every single day except holidays and COVID ever since. And, well, that's the story of the Seattle fire.
That was so good.
And Madame Lou and how she changed Seattle, and the local historian who made it so now you can actually go and see the underground tour and see places where people did involuntary suicide.
Yeah. Somebody write a script for Madame Lou movie.
That
would just be...
That would be awesome.
We don't need Madame Web.
Watch
We need Madame Lou.
Yes. And one of the things that one of the reasons why I wanted to tell this story is because I've lived in the Pacific Northwest all my life. I've lived in Seattle since I was 18. I never heard of her ever until going on the Seattle tour and seeing the Geographics video. And I was like, wait, what? Hold up.
It's such a taboo subject, because she is a madam.
Well, she was a madam, but also she was a woman.
Yeah.
And women weren't allowed to even vote until 1923. So,
yeah.
But it just also shows how even if you live in a place that you've lived in most of your life, you probably don't know your local history.
Yep.
And so I suggest that you be a tourist in your hometown. You go to the historical sites. You go to the museums. You do all the touristy shit that everyone else is doing, and you're just like, be a tourist in your town for at least a day. And you might not only learn something super interesting about your town, but you might also learn to really love your town a little bit more too.
I will say that's one of my favorite things. I've always done that is even when you're going to buy a building, read the plaque.
Yes.
Just read the plaque. When we were going through New Orleans and all the people were doing touristy things. And of course we were doing that too.
Well, yeah.
But I did so much research that I don't want to go to these bars and stuff. I want to go to the museums. I want to learn about the culture. I want to go to all these things. And we were walking by this one building, and I was just reading every single plaque. And the one was just like, this person was like a famous author, and this was his slave quarters, and this was that. And I'm like, he's a piece of shit. And so we're reading all these things, and but nobody else was really doing that. We're just learning so much about this one, and we're like, this one area, I'm like, this gives me like the chills. And sure enough, it was a building where people got hurt. And I was like, all right, so that was, I do that in Seattle. But like, there's so much of Seattle. It's like, if you haven't visited it, to those who are listening, it is built up.
Yes.
And to go down, there's multiple layers.
Yes, there is.
You can definitely see it at Pike Place Market.
Yes, you can see it at Pike Place.
Yeah, the different layers, because there's different tunnels you can go through to get to different shops.
Yep.
And you can get lost, even though it doesn't seem like it's crazy. It's different levels, and you're working your way down.
Yep.
But didn't it burn down twice, or was it flooded once? Like I thought something happened twice.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably. We didn't, because they didn't know the sea level thing.
Yeah.
I remember that was an issue. But the opium tour, the red light tour was just going through and seeing those opium dens and them pointing it out, and how when they closed it down, that was basically what the red light was.
It became the red light district after they really started to go after the brothels and stuff.
Yeah, which saved them.
Yes.
So crazy.
But yes, they did start to close those down. But that all of her estate went into King County.
Yeah.
So again, the Seattle Mission building is her hotel.
Yeah.
That was the
I have to
old
check
brothel.
that out. Yeah.
And now it's a charity.
All in all, good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's it. That is, again, what's the one thing that I want you to learn from this podcast this time?
Don't build stuff out of wood.
Don't build stuff out of wood.
Don't build everything out of wood. Don't put fires out with water. Grease fires.
There you go. There you go.
I got it. I pulled
Grease
myself
fires.
around. Yeah.
Don't put water on grease fires so you don't burn down an entire city. But also, maybe treat your seamstresses with respect, because they may be the ones paying the bill.
Treat everybody with respect.
Well,
yeah.
I know.
But especially those seamstresses.
Especially the seamstresses. Well, that was a good episode.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. Thank you so much for listening, and please like and subscribe, and bye.
Bye.